There's a building in the heart of America that's taller than the Statue of Liberty. 75 stories high. It doesn't have windows. It doesn't have people living inside. No apartments, no offices, no restaurants. It's completely empty, except for one thing. Grain. 50,000 tons of it, stacked, waiting. This is a grain elevator. And for 100 years, nobody paid attention to it. Until one day, something strange happened. People started flying over America's heartland and seeing something they couldn't believe. Thousands of these towers, stretching across the prairies, like an alien civilization. And suddenly everyone asked the same question. What the hell are these things? This is the story of how one machine became so important, so massive, so ubiquitous, that we stopped seeing it. But once you notice a grain elevator, you can't unsee it. Buckle up, because we're about to go inside. Before grain elevators, farming had a brutal problem. You grew your crop for 6 months. You harvested it in 2 weeks. Then what? You had to store it. Thousands of tons of grain that would rot if it got wet. Spoil if insects got to it. Rot if heat hit it. Farmers used barns. They used sheds. They used whatever wooden structures they could build. But wooden buildings had problems. They burned. They leaked. Mice got inside. By 1870, America was producing more grain than it could possibly store. The harvest would come in. Farmers would pick it. Elevators at railway depots would jam with bags and bags of wheat. Trains would have to wait, sometimes for weeks, backed up for miles. The railroad companies were losing money. The farmers were losing crops. It was a crisis that nobody had solved for literally thousands of years. Because the problem was always the same. How do you store massive amounts of grain without it going bad? Then in 1870 something happened in Buffalo, New York, that changed agriculture forever. A man named Robert Dunbar. A grain merchant was standing at the dock watching grain being unloaded from ships. Men with shovels, baskets, moving grain. One handful at a time. It was slow. It was exhausting. And it was inefficient. Dunbar watched a bucket elevator used in coal mines to lift coal up shafts and thought, what if we did that with grain? So he built the first grain elevator. It wasn't tall. It wasn't fancy. But it worked. A belt with buckets attached. Grain poured into the bottom. The belt moved up. The buckets tipped at the top. Grain fell into storage. No human hands. No shovels. No backs breaking. That's it. That was the revolution. Buffalo installed more. Then entire rows of them. By 1900, Buffalo had 140 grain elevators. The city became the grain capital of the world. And these towers, they became iconic. They became beautiful in a strange industrial way. Photographers started coming to Buffalo just to photograph the grain elevators. People were obsessed. European architects wanted to study them. Soviet architects were inspired by them. Le Corbusier, the most famous architect of the 20th century, went to Buffalo, saw the grain elevators and said, "This is the modern aesthetic. This is what the future looks like. So, how does a grain elevator actually work?" It starts simple. Gravity and automation. Farmers drive their trucks to the base of the elevator. They dump their grain into a pit. The grain falls into an auger, a massive screw inside a tube. The auger rotates. The grain moves through the tube and up, up, up. Some elevators are 75 stories tall. The grain travels 200 feet. In seconds, at the top, the auger stops. The grain falls into a chute, directed to one of dozens of storage bins. Each bin has moisture sensors, temperature gauges, and aeration tubes. Because grain is alive, it has moisture. It breathes. If it gets too hot, it can spontaneously combust. So modern elevators have climate control. They have fumigation systems. If one section of grain gets moldy, they can inject nitrogen gas to kill the mold. Without killing the grain, they can precisely measure moisture content, protein content, weight, all automatically, all digitally. Then when it's time to ship the grain out, it goes the reverse direction. Gravity, chutes, conveyor belts. It goes down, 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 and pours directly into train cars or ship holds. No human hands touch it. No grain is wasted. No time is lost. That's the miracle. The automation's so complete, You don't even see it happening. After Buffalo proved it worked, grain elevators spread across America like wildfire. Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, North Dakota. They became the most recognizable structure in rural America. You drive through the Midwest, and you see them on the horizon before you see anything else. These towers became so common that artists started painting them. Writers started writing about them. The grain elevator became a symbol of American agriculture, American efficiency, American progress. But here's what's wild. Most people never think about them. They see them. They drive past them. But they don't see them until you know what they are. Until you understand that inside that tower is enough grain to feed thousands of people for a year. Then you can't unsee it, and you realize something dark. We built the entire structure of global food supply. On a machine nobody talks about. Here's the thing about grain elevators that nobody mentions. They made agriculture possible at a global scale. But they also made it fragile, because all the grain flows through these towers. If a grain elevator breaks down, supply chains collapse. During the Great Depression, grain elevators became symbols of corporate control, of farmers being squeezed. During World War II, they were military targets. Germany knew that destroying American grain storage would starve Americans. In modern times, grain elevators are so automated, so digitized, that a single computer virus could theoretically shut down an entire region's grain supply. We solved the storage problem so completely that we created a new problem. Total dependence on a machine that can fail. The elevator that freed farmers from impossible labor became the infrastructure that imprisoned us. So, what's next for grain storage? The future looks different. Instead of building taller and taller elevators, some companies are building sideways. Massive horizontal storage facilities, underground silos, automated warehouses. But the biggest change is coming from above. Vertical farms, growing grain inside climate-controlled buildings. No harvest season, year-round production. Grain growing in towers as tall as grain elevators, but producing food instead of storing it. It's the ultimate irony. The grain elevator, born to solve storage problems, is being replaced by towers that eliminate the need to store at all. We went from, how do we store what we harvest, to what if we grew what we need? Year-round? The machine that changed agriculture might be replaced by something that makes agriculture unrecognizable. Subscribe for more episodes on how one machine changed everything. Because sometimes, the machines we don't notice are the ones that matter most.